Hi, everyone, and welcome to this episode. I am obviously so excited to sit down and do this. It's actually the 4th of July when I'm recording this, and we had a meeting with our photographers this morning and our videographers for our wedding. So I'm in the wedding energy to be doing this Q&A. I dropped a question box for you guys on my Instagram stories just yesterday. And so I'm going to be going through the questions that you asked me. And Jelly needs to come up. What's new? Come on, buddy. Oh, God, he cannot be left out of the fun. But for anyone that's listening to this being like, oh my God, I didn't get to ask my questions last time. That's okay. I will put another Q&A box up because I did think I would probably do another wedding Q&A as we get closer to maybe. So just as usual, keep an eye on my Instagram stories so that you don't miss out on being able to drop your questions in. But I'm really excited to get into them. Okay. So firstly, for those of you that don't know, we are getting married very soon. And I'm very, very excited. We both are so excited. We just love each other so much that I'm like in that weird phase right now where I'm like, I just want to be at the wedding, but I also equally don't because I am loving this weird limbo that we're in where we're still planning things and we have to wait. And like, I'm having to practice patience. And I know that I'm going to miss this phase. Because even sometimes I'll think about how prior to us getting engaged, you're just so focused on you want to get engaged, you want to get engaged. And you're kind of always focused on the next. And then once you get that thing, you then look back and you're like, damn it, I wish I enjoyed that like limbo a little bit more. So that's something that I've really been practicing, especially as we move into not just this new season of becoming husband and wife, but also then soon starting a family is actually loving the now and really sinking into the now, not always just jumping into the next thing. So anyway, let's dive into questions. Yeah, we're getting married in Italy. And I mean, you'll see it on Instagram, but there will be a delay because just like we did for our engagement, which I'm really glad we did, we took about a week or two before I actually shared it on social media. And it was just so nice to be in that bubble without, getting the kind of blowing up spam on your phone. So we will kind of, you won't actually know when we get married until we're married, and then you'll find out. Love a little bit of an element of surprise, keeping you guys on your toes. Okay, the number one question that I have been asked, like before I even put this question box in, I get this in my DMs so frequently. And then literally there was like, I would say 90% of the questions in this Q&A was this: are you changing your last name? So let me explain all of this. Firstly, what's my take? And other people ask this is like, what is your take on changing changing last names? Like, do you think it's too traditional? Do you think blah blah blah? So I'm just going to kind of answer all the questions that got asked about the whole changing of your last name thing. If you are struggling with your skin health and your gut health, and you've tried so many physical things, you need to check out my gut and skin healing classes. I have a special little bonus happening right now, and the classes are only available for a limited amount of time until around mid-July. So you don't have long to jump on these. And these classes, I essentially made them for those of you that weren't in a position to join Queen Alchemy, or you've already done Queen Alchemy, but you want a class that you can keep coming back to that is specifically designed for healing energetic blocks that are causing gut health issues and like bloating and IBS and like gas and all that yucky stuff. And you also wanted a healing class for skin issues so that you could combat your breakouts, your eczema, rashes as they come up, because sometimes life happens. Or if you've been struggling with acne or eczema for a while and you've tried all the physical things, changing your diet, doing the supplements, the creams, all the things, and it's still not budging, you need to join one or both of these classes. If you join the bundle, and so you join both of them, the gut and the skin, you will then get a special little extra bonus module from me. That is everything that I do to keep my gut healthy and my skin healthy when we are traveling, and all the added things that I'm doing for wedding prep as well. I understand that for a lot of people these days, it can be hard with the whole like, do I change my last name? Do I not? Because they've built a career for themselves with their let's just say maiden name, right? So I built a career for myself with my last name as Yates. So it can become kind of tricky. I've seen some people where the husband ends up taking the wife's last name because she's the one that's kind of built this, name for herself or whatever, with her last name. Personally, that will never, that's not even crossed my mind. I could not think of anything more emasculating personally than my husband, like just saying it makes me actually gag a little bit. Whew, my husband taking my last name. Like I just am like, no, you are the man. I want it to feel like you have claimed me. You own me. You want me, not the other way around. It's not, I have claimed you. I have given you my last name. Like, no, no. I want our children to have your last name. Like, I basically tell you guys the answer. I want to have your last name. But it is tricky because I have built this for myself of Monica Yates. Like my name is trademarked, for example. I'm not going to go and trademark another fucking name. It's a whole bloody process. Not willing to do it again. So, long story short, but I'm going to give you kind of also my thoughts on it is yes, I will be changing my last name. And a lot of you then kind of asked how it will affect the business and la la la. So, firstly, I know for some people, they can get really kind of sucked into it's so traditional and it's this fight for the amount of people that are fighting for the sake of fucking fighting is just like we all need to just calm our tits these days. I talked about this on a recent episode I did actually on somebody else's podcast of just people can get very addicted to fighting. And so they just keep fighting for the sake of making themselves feel like they're important because without that fight, without that anger, they then don't actually know what their importance is. They feel like they have more value by fighting for something. And so for a lot of women, we can wear this kind of like hyper independence badge of honor, this fight of like, I've got to, fight for my rights as a woman. I've got to fight for respect. And actually it does the reverse, by the way. But what that constantly just brews is insecurity. It doesn't actually, like, when you think about it, okay, let's say, for example, you're always using the argument of, well, I get less respect in the workplace because I'm a woman, or I make less money because I'm a woman. Do you actually want to tell yourself that? Like, is that empowering to you? No, right? Like that is not empowering to you. It's not productive. It's not making you show up better. It's actually you are dimming your light. You are making yourself smaller. You're just getting to use an excuse, right? That's all it is. And we love an excuse. We love to, blame something else other than ourselves for why we don't have what we have, rather than just actually going to get what the fuck you want and not using these excuses as reasons as to why you still don't have what you want. Because there are plenty of women that are well respected and very successful, and they didn't get there by being like, oh, I'm a woman, that's why I'm not as X, Y, and Z compared to men. Whatever. I'm not going to go down that loop, that rabbit hole. My point is that some women can get very, I'm not taking his last name because that would be losing a part of myself. That would be, letting him own me, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you really think these days, like, if that's where your brain goes of he owns me now and I've lost myself because of a name change, this is what that tells me. You actually aren't even that solid in yourself. Does it feel like this kind of like ego death and this change to be changing your last name? Yes. I mean, I spoke about this I'm not sure, hopefully it will have come out by this point, but I spoke about this in my bachelorette video on YouTube, my Sydney bachelorette, of it was like emotional and weird to be having my bachelorette because it does feel like you're going through this transition, like you're letting go of a part of you. And that is the truth. You are letting go of a part of you as you're going through this transition to become married. Like I even feel that, I feel that now, and we're not even married yet. It's like this building, and it can be kind of nerve wracking. It can be like a little bit anxiety inducing, but you got to choose how you obviously perceive everything. But more importantly, what I'm getting at is we all go through season changes, whether it's with a partner or not, whether it's about marriage or not, and we have to let parts of ourselves die in order to then become a better next level version of yourself. And if you are associating changing your last name with losing a part of yourself, that actually just tells me that you are not as strong as you think you are. So what that tells me is you're saying like, I'm not changing my last name because like I want to stay as who I am. And you're kind of saying this in this way of like, that makes me feel powerful. That makes me feel strong. If a name is what makes you feel like yourself or strong, what I'm trying to get at, hopefully you guys are understanding it, is you aren't then deeply embodied in it in your body, right? It's like when people lose their sense of self when their business starts to, decline a little bit, or when things aren't as good. And now they all of a sudden don't feel worthy. I'm like, okay, you have so much of yourself wrapped up in your business, you don't even know who you are. Like, you think that you're secure, but actually you're only secure when you have your business being successful. So are you only secure when you have your last name? And as soon as you don't have your last name anymore, you then feel like somebody else owns you. Like, we actually don't live back in like the 1920s, and nobody owns you. Nobody has that much control over you. And if you were to let somebody have that much control over you, then that would be like your own problem. That would be your own stuff that you need to work on, your own fawn response, your own people pleasing tendencies. You know what I mean? So I genuinely, that was like a whole fucking tangent, but whatever. Hopefully we got some juice out of that. And you could apply that to so many different areas of life, of just how we kind of make up this bullshit sometimes to ourselves of these external things make us feel confident. And I'm like, okay, so if you lost those things and then you lost your confidence, what that tells me is you inherently, as you are, aren't as confident or as secure as you think you are. So anyway, yes, it is like an energy change. It does feel like, even just thinking about it, to be changing my last name to his, it does feel like, of course, there would be an energetic shift. Like, of course. But I'm excited because that's part of evolving. That's part of growing. That's part of going into this new chapter of being married, is I want to step into my more like wife archetype, if you will. I want to, I'm ready to let go of this younger single version of me and actually step into this next level. And I, if I didn't take his last name, and this really is no judgment if you don't take your partner's last name, but this is, you've asked, and this is my personal opinion and my personal experience. If I don't take his last name, it will actually feel like I'm then not fully in and committed to this new chapter. Do you know what I mean? It will feel like I'm still hanging on to the past. And then the question is, what are you so afraid to let go of in the past? I'll give you another analogy. So my bachelorettes have been pretty low key. My New York one, that actually I'm going to this weekend, it's already passed by the time you guys listen to this, is so fucking low key. Essentially, it's just like dinner with girlfriends, and we're going to go to like this place afterwards, and we're doing a Pilates class together. Very low key, potentially not wearing white because I forgot that I had my bachelorette. That's how low key it is. And I just was like, oh yeah, I'm going to New York. And I just forgot that I was whatever. And compared to a lot of the bachelorettes that I've been seeing in the US online, I'm like, my bachelorette is literally like the scum of the earth compared to these other ones that have like fucking like, just, it's out of control, right? If you want to have that though, like, absolutely go for it. But just, I don't need to have one. And what was interesting is that I'm just using another analogy for what I'm saying about like the stepping into a new chapter and just giving ourselves permission. Sometimes we don't let ourselves just like have permission to even just have a girls' night and get a stripper 10 years after you're married. It's like we think that we're losing something as we're getting married. So I better get all of that out of me at my bachelorette. I better get all of this out of me right now. And if I don't do it, it's like I've missed out on something. And I do wonder whether that also is a reflection of like the relationship as well, because even we've been so busy before the wedding, so much travel, and we didn't know whether my fiance was going to be able to even fit his bachelor party in. And so like I even said to him, babe, you can just do it afterwards if you want. And he was like, oh yeah, true. And I was like, it's so interesting how we think like this has to be done before the wedding. And I get it because it's tradition and like we obviously want that. But what I'm saying more so is to start giving yourself permission to not necessarily have to like get all of it out of your system. Take out this thing of like, you're losing this part of yourself. So you have to cling on so tightly. So you have to get it all out. So you have to go as crazy as you can right now. Would you not give yourself permission to go and have a crazy girls weekend if you wanted to, like 10 years into your marriage? Because I know I personally would. And I just wonder whether so much of it is like a permission piece. It's a lack of connection to like the beauty of the season changes in our lives. We think that if we're changing seasons, we're missing out on something, or we can never go back, or we can never go have a crazy girls' night. We can never go get a stripper again if we don't want to. Whatever. That was a tangent. My point is that yes, I'm changing my last name. My business is going to stay as Monica Yates, and then I will change my last name to his last name. And I'm honestly kind of excited because well, I'm not excited for the process because apparently it's like such a fucking bitch to like change your last name. But the good thing is like, um, I have to, get all my visa stuff changed anyway. So I'm kind of killing two birds with one stone anyway. We'll just, change my name as we're going through the application process. Um, Point is though, is I'm actually kind of excited because I feel like it will be really nice to have this very much like this business version of me now that is like I am Monica Yates in my business. And then in my personal life, I'm kind of like I'm like different, I get to kind of almost step into an alter ego, but the alter ego is just me. And then I get to really step into my lover archetype. It's kind of like my businesswoman archetype and my lover archetype actually have different names. I'm like, that's kind of sexy. Anyway, so that's what's happening. So I will not be changing my name by any means with the business. I will still always use Monica Yates when it comes to business things. My book will be published as Monica Yates. Podcast will say Monica Yates. Like every single thing will be Monica Yates. That will be like my stage name, I guess, but my legal name will be changed. So that's how it's going to differ, which is cool. So I haven't figured out the intricacies, like whether I'll sign I don't know, maybe I'll sign my email off with his last name. I don't know. We'll figure that out as we go. But that is the deal with changing my last name. Okay, 15 minutes on why am I changing my last name. Okay. Okay, and then somebody else asked, I know you might not want to reveal this, so totally understand if you don't want to, but did you guys end up deciding on whether you're going to do a first look or not? So if you didn't see, maybe a few months ago, I posted on my Instagram asking for advice on first look or no first look. I was so 50-50. I was reading all of the pros of the first look, but then all of the pros of not having a first look. And I was like, oh my God, which one do we do? And what I realized, so I was really, really back and forth. My fiance didn't really want a first look. He was like, I just want to see you walk down the aisle, la, la, la. He also was like, yeah, I don't need to see you for the whole day. Whereas I'm like, babe, I need to be attached to you. So, anyway, so I think it's just also like a chick/man thing. It's like, we're so like, oh, about the wedding. And he's super giddy too, but there's a difference. And we'll get into that because that was one of the questions you guys also asked. So, for the first look, basically what I was sitting in bed one night and I was meditating, and I really was, hopefully this helps anyone else that's kind of struggling about whether they do it or not, because I do feel like the first look also has become such a social media thing that we're not seeing like, we're not getting like the context behind it, if you will, of really, I don't even know what I'm saying. Whatever. Just hold on with me for a second. So I was meditating in bed and I was really meditating on this question of, why do I want the first look? Like, really, why do I want it? So I got the answer for that. And the answer was, I want us to have some time together before we actually get so wrapped up. We're having a big wedding. Well, it's big for international. Before we get so wrapped up, we are two very sociable people. We have like so many amazing people coming to our wedding. It's going to be fucking out of control. If you saw a text I posted on my Instagram story the other day, one of my mates of honors, because I have two, she says to me, I can't remember what I said, and she was like, Monica, new message. She sends like 50 in a row. Monica, new message. You aren't having a wedding, new message. You're having a 4-day fucking festival, new message, in Italy. And I was just like, I was on the toilet laughing, and it was just great. We are having like quite a shebang. And you're only getting married once. And so I really was like, I want us to spend time together. We are the kinds of people that can get very, very wrapped up in what's happening. I am extroverted in the sense of I love my alone time. So I think that's introverted, extroverted, introvert, whatever, whichever way around it is. But when I'm around people that I love and adore, I get extremely energized and like I lose my brain. And so one of the biggest pieces of advice I keep seeing on Instagram is you need to be attached like by the hip for the wedding night. Otherwise you'll just lose each other. Anyway, so I was like, I just really want to have some time together to be like, babe, we're getting married. Like we're finally doing it. We're so happy. It's been a long, well, not that long compared to other couples, but we actually were going to get married last year. And then after we got engaged, I was just like, I cannot plan a wedding in less than a year. Because we got engaged in November. And he was like, yep, that's like, I totally agree. Because initially it was like, we're going to get engaged and then get married the year after. And so we ended up having a 2-year engagement so that we had more time. And we're still like fucking scrambling. Lol. Lol. So anyone that thinks, oh, we'll have a long engagement to have longer for the wedding planning, you won't fucking do it. You'll still wait till the last minute. because there's also like this, I didn't realize this, but there is so much stuff that you actually can't do ahead of time, like so many things, because also the vendors are like, no, we're not going to talk to you about these intricate details until a month out to the wedding, because they have all these other weddings to be planning for. So they're not going to be talking to you 6 months out. You'll book them in and that's it. And then you won't speak to them until a month out. And so it literally doesn't make a difference if you plan your wedding 3 years in advance or a year in advance. The main difference for me that actually made the biggest difference with having the extra time was the dresses. That was the biggest thing, because it took me a long time to figure out the dresses that I wanted. So for anyone wondering, that was the pro of the long engagement. And obviously it also just got us to really be able to enjoy just calling each other fiance for so long, because you only get that chance once and then you're husband and wife. So what was I asking? Wait, what the hell was the question? Oh, the first look. So we really wanted to spend time together. So what we are doing, and I'll give the like intricate exact details of what we're doing after the wedding. But what we are now doing is actually just spending time with each other earlier that day. Not a really long amount of time, because obviously I have to get ready and stuff, but that's what we decided, because I also realized I actually don't want him to see me in the dress. That was why I was so push and pull. It was like, I do want to have time with him, but I don't want him to see me in the dress. And so we've basically just figured out an alternative where he won't see me in the dress, but we end up being able to have some time together. So, and we didn't need like the first look for the photos. That was not what it was about. Because we actually don't want photos earlier in the day. We like a very moody vibe of photos and like a very, very sunset kind of thing. So we've pushed our photos anyway, like after the ceremony, to get that like sunset time. So it wouldn't have even made sense to have the first look, because we didn't want that much light anyway for the photos. So that's the answer with the first look and kind of what we decided. Okay. Another one was, will he finally come on the podcast? I literally put a calendar like thing in my calendar right before I clicked record, saying like, we're doing a podcast together. So I was like, Hal and Monica podcast time for like 3 weeks time. And he just yells, haha, saw what you put in the podcast. And I was like, yeah, you need to do it. And he just goes, no. And that's it. And I was like, okay, well, worth a try. So we'll see. Okay. Did you talk about marriage/engagement prior to the proposal? Yes, I did not know that he was going to propose. So it was all a massive, massive surprise. The way that he proposed, like, was just so perfect. If you haven't listened to our love story, there's 3 episodes. I went into great detail. So you can listen to those if you would like to. And then with our engagement, really quick, basically we were on a ski trip, and actually there was just like so much magical about it. We were in Alta in Utah, and I'd not been before. They had not had that much snow in like 18 years or something on that date, because it was early November. And it was like insane powder, like so much snow. And they hadn't had that much in an insane amount of years, but then they had that weekend. So hence he like then very quickly kind of booked this trip. Oh, what was actually the magical about it, which you'll hear about in the story, was we'd booked this weekend together, literally a week into dating. He was in New York. We were lying on my bed. I remember it so clearly. I remember being so giddy about the fact that he thought we were still going to be together in November. So this would have been very beginning of February, maybe even no, we met the end of Jan. So maybe very end of Jan, beginning of Feb. And he was on a wait list for one of those like cool Airbnb houses, and it was in buttfuck nowhere in Utah. Never been to Utah. And he said, shall I book it? Like, there's an opening available for November. Shall I book it and we can go? And I was just so like, oh my God, you think you're still gonna be with me in November? So of course I was like, yes, book it. So he booked it, and that ended up being the weekend that he proposed. So it was like the universe knew. But what was great about that was, because that was booked so far in advance, I wasn't suspicious when he was like, we're going away this weekend, because it had been in the calendar for literally since we basically met. And so, yeah. Anyway, so we talked about marriage and engagement very early on in the relationship. For me, it was really important that I was only dating somebody where they were in that place in their life, and he very much was. So that was like, a filtering thing anyway. So that was kind of early on, same with children. Um, and we knew that like we were each other's husband and wife, like together forever, soulmates, so early on. Like, I remember a taxi ride to a party in New York that we were going to before we'd said I love you, but there was a few times where like it kind of nearly slipped, and there was one time that he let it slip, and he was like, "Oh, I was speaking to my mum on the phone." And I'm like, "No, you fucking weren't." Um, it was he was saying goodbye to me at the airport. Anyway, so I'm like giddy, just like reflecting. I love this. So what was I saying? Oh, yeah. So we were driving to this party in New York, and we were in the back of a taxi. And I remember like the kind of taxi that it was. And he just said to me, he looked at me, and he said, I think he said something like, "Do you believe that you have like one person?" Oh, that's right. Yeah. He was like, "Do you believe that you have like a person, like a soulmate? Like there's just one person for you?" And I was like, "Yes." And he goes, "Yeah, me too." And I was like, "Okay." And he says, "I think I found my person." And, or maybe he said like, "I found my person." Maybe it wasn't even, I think, I can't remember. But basically it was something like, I felt like, "I think I found my person," or "I found my person." And I can't remember what I said back, but it was just, we knew very early on, even after our first date together. So we met on the chairlift, and then a week later we went skiing together for a whole weekend in Colorado, back to the place where we met. And as we were driving back to Denver to the airport, I remember like the exact part of the freeway we were on, like that we were about to go around this turn. We were not far from Beaver Creek. I remember it so clearly. And he looks at me and he says, I can't remember exactly what he said before this, but he just goes, I don't know what we were talking about, but he goes, "When you know, you know." And then maybe like 10 minutes later, he said, "Do you know how, like, do you know what kind of wedding you want and how you want to get engaged?" And I initially wanted to get engaged via heli skiing. That became a bit of a problem because when, we got to know each other, he's like, "Well, we've never been heli skiing before." And so now the first time we go heli skiing, you're going to be thinking that it's, I'm proposing. And so it's going to basically let the cat out of the bag very early on. So he actually tried, that's like early that season when we met, because we met during a ski season. We would go to these different resorts. If you followed me back then, you would have kind of been seeing, and he would actually try to get like last minute heli skiing tickets everywhere we would go. We would go into offices and he would try to get us to go heli skiing, because then it would like be like, "Okay, so she, maybe let's get heli skiing as like a regular thing that we do. So then when I can randomly propose and she won't be expecting it, because we're always heli skiing." It didn't work out. And he did an even better proposal, which was super low key and amazing. But that was not the question. The question was, though, do you talk about marriage and engagement prior to the proposal? So yes, I, for example, had mentioned to his mum and him as well, what kind of ring I wanted, in the sense I didn't really give any direction. I actually always wanted emerald. If you know me, you know that I like everything to be different. If somebody else has the same thing as me, I'm like, "Well, now I can't have that anymore." I love different. So when I buy, like when I go in, okay, as an example, you guys know I love Celine. So when I go into Celine and I'm looking at a bag, I've got one of my bags that I recently bought is this, for example, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we only have 5 of these in the world." I'm like, "Great, I'll buy it." Because I just hate having like the same thing that everybody has. We are both very much like that. We love to be different. We love to be unique. So even the hotels that like all the influencers stay at, we purposely will not go there, because it's like I don't want to be like, because of Instagram and because like we do take a lot of content, it's like I don't want to go where everybody else has gone. Whatever, that's beside the point. My point is that with my ring, I really wanted something different. I really wanted unique. And so I always wanted emerald. But we were in Lake Como one time having breakfast, I remember it so clearly, and he said, "Babe, I've always envisioned proposing with a diamond." And I was like, "Okay, so you want diamond, I want emerald. I trust that you will figure it out. Maybe we have both." Um, and so long story short, there's a diamond in the middle with 2 emeralds either side. My other thing that I told him, so all he knew was I like emerald, and I trusted him and I was open. I said, "The most important thing is that you love the ring." That was just important to me, because I feel like when it comes to, proposals and weddings, the woman does so much. Like we plan the wedding. We have the wedding the way that we want it. Like we get the last say, but it's like it's our dream, like the wedding. And it's like, that's why I think when women propose, I'm like, you're ruining it for the guy. Like he's got one bit in all of this, like he doesn't get to do all the fun stuff at the wedding. I don't think it's fun for them. He doesn't, that's one of your questions in a second. He doesn't, choose the, like, get the last say in the venue or anything like that. And I just think like this is his opportunity to claim you, and you've taken that away from him. And also like you've taken that away from yourself, because now you don't get claimed. It's such a good feeling when a man says like, "I want you to be mine, like I want to marry you," like, oh my god. Anyway, whatever, getting way too into this. So um Yeah, so I was like, I just wanted him to love the ring because for me, it's like I feel like I have a part of him on me all the time. Like I love it. It's fucking sexy. And the ring is like I'm owned by him. It's hot and very like the masculine feminine polarity. Like love that stuff. You guys know. Taking subdom outside of the bedroom. Big, big, big thing. If you are like, what the fuck is she on? Let's get the link below for that Instagram post I did about taking subdom out of the bedroom. It's actually a blog. We can do the blog instead, Olivia, if that's better. So I said that. I also just told him that I wanted a very like sturdy setting. I didn't want one of those settings where, you know, those diamonds where you feel like you could just like flick the diamond off the person's finger. I didn't want that because I use my hands a lot and I don't take my jewelry off. You've probably noticed that. I always have my jewelry on. So I have to have like quite sturdy jewelry because I'm cooking all the time. I'm using my hands. I'm in the garden, that kind of thing. And then I also wanted gold because I wear gold jewelry. So that was it. I didn't want like diamonds all around the band. I wanted a very just simple band. And so yeah, basically it was just like I need something sturdy, like kid friendly. I'm not going to have to change it when we have kids because it gets fucking caught on everything or it's too delicate. And so he came up with just the most incredible thing. And what I love about it is the diamond is like the snow and the green is like the trees, and which is obviously how we met. And it just looks amazing in the snow, like fucking incredible. The colors just like pop. Anyway, that was that. So yeah, we talked about the marriage, the engagement and whatnot, but not in like great detail. What we more talked about that's more important than just like it isn't obviously, do you want to get married? Yes or no at the end. What was more important is making sure that our timelines matched up. So like expectation of when I wanted to get engaged and married and the same for him. That's really important. For those of you that are asking kind of those questions. And then something else that's also really important is more to make sure that we were aligned on what marriage would look like, what being parents would look like, and making sure that our values and our beliefs and just the way that we were going to do things was the same. That's important, like the after stuff of the marriage, not just what's happening in between, like how we want our marriage to be, how we want our relationship to be. The fact that what's really important for me is that we don't just go, okay, we're married, now we can stop putting in all the work. Like, no, we are always showing up for each other. We're always chasing each other. We're always, like making sure we are showing up as our best selves. Okay. How to compromise with your fiance when he just wants to elope with just the two of you. So this is a good question because there was some questions about like what compromises you had to make with the wedding planning process. So he has a really big family, and that was really hard for me in the beginning of the wedding planning process, if I'm honest, because it was and it's kind of more like the guest list now, because a lot of people aren't coming, is more like I would say 60-40, maybe yeah, maybe 60-40, 70-30, maybe. Like it doesn't really feel like that though, because obviously a lot of his friends, feel like my friends too. Um, so he's got a really big family. And I've got a big family, but not as big as his. And not all of them are coming to the wedding. I mean, not all of his family is coming to the wedding either, unfortunately. And so for me, what was actually the hardest part that I had to compromise on was I wanted a small wedding. He wanted a big wedding. Now, we've gotten the number that I was like, I manifested. We got the number that I was 100% like, this is what I want. And obviously, it could change a tiny bit as we get closer. Hopefully, not. That would be rude of people, but it could change close, obviously, a little bit as we get closer. But I really wanted no more than a certain number. He wanted more than that. And I was just very much, you know what? What is important on this day? Love. What is important on this day is that we love each other and that we both feel like we have been heard and we are getting the wedding that we want. I do not want him to feel like he didn't get as many of his loved ones there, because that is not a good feeling on your wedding day. And so we compromised, but it wasn't even that we like compromised, because you also don't have a lot of control over how many people are going to be coming or not. So it was hard when we were inviting all these people, and it was like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of invitations. And I was getting a little bit like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. But I kept the vision of what I wanted. And lo and behold, I got what I wanted. And he also got what he wanted as well, because the wedding isn't so small, but it's also not so out of control big by any means. There's a big difference though between obviously an elopement and then a big wedding. I would be saying you want to understand the biggest thing that when it comes to compromises that helps you to actually compromise on both sides, you and also him, is actually understanding the why behind that need. So, for example, why do you want X hundreds amount of people? Why do you want to get eloped? Because under that reason of why I want to get eloped could be, well, I've seen all of my friends get married and they all tell me it's so stressful. It's been the worst process ever. Like, our marriage barely survived it. When I hear that, I'm like, okay, that's fucking weird, because I'm just like, why did you let your wedding planning become that stressful? And another question, how's the wedding planning been stressful? Honestly, no. And this is coming from somebody that I know what I like, I know what I don't like. I'm picky, but I also know what to be focused on. That's the thing. Some people will think I'm really fucking picky, but it depends on what we're talking about. Am I picky with the food? Yes. Am I picky with making sure people are having fun? Yes. But am I picky about the exact flower? No. It's like the overall vibe. I know what I want for the overall vibe, and I know what to let go of control of. I know to set the intention to make sure like the florist and I are speaking the same language. And then I also know that so many things can happen on the day that then causes, or happen in the weeks prior, that then causes the florist to have to change things last minute. And the most important thing is that I trust her. The most important thing on this wedding day is love, fun, smiles, and happiness. What's going to create that? Good food, good music, and us setting up the space to like have that thriving. And we have done that. So I also haven't been stressed because I just know that the wedding is going to be better than I could possibly fucking imagine. Like, how could it not be? Okay, how it could not be better than I would imagine is trying to control every fucking detail and getting stressed about shit that I don't need to get stressed about. I'm like, this, I am marrying a man, I could cry. I'm marrying a man better than I manifested. I have my best friends with me. I have, my closest family members. We're in fucking Italy. I'm good. Like, literally, I am good. Um, and so I'm not going to get stressed about the rest. I'm going to focus on manifesting and setting the intention and putting the best energy out there. And then I've done all that I can. So, in terms of the compromising, it's really getting clear on the why. So, what would be another example? Oh, okay. Here's another one. We compromised on, I don't want like groomsmen. Actually, I don't know whether this compromise has been organized yet, but we'll see. Okay, so one thing that maybe we're still in the compromise of, we're still compromising on it, is I don't want the groomsmen and bridesmaids standing up there. I want it to be just us two. He wants the reverse. He wants it up there. And if we got to the why, and this is why I'm like, babe, you have to be on the podcast because I'm just speaking for you. You can't speak for yourself. But based on conversations, it's also just what he's known. He has grown up in the South. All the weddings are pretty much the same that he's been to. And what I want is quite unique. So even just the fact that, like, there have been some details that I've shared with him very early on, and he's like, what? Oh my God, I cannot believe you want that. Well, it's so crazy. But to me, it's not crazy at all. We've grown up in very different environments. And so you kind of have to factor all these things in. It's not just preference. It's also, what does somebody know? It's also, what has somebody heard? So he could want to get eloped just because he's trying to avoid stress. But for you, getting eloped could actually cause a lot of stress because you're not getting your dream wedding. So it's about having the conversations, not about, this is what I want, this is what I want, but why? Like, opening up your heart, getting a little bit vulnerable, wearing your heart on your sleeve, and not, okay, it's my way or it's his way, but how could we meet in the middle? So maybe the meeting in the middle is that you are going to have a smaller wedding, and maybe you're going to make sure that you're hiring a wedding planner, so that way there's like very minimal stress. Like, personally, I don't know how anybody could plan a wedding without a wedding planner. What I was going to say is, yeah, we haven't been stressed. I haven't been stressed. It was almost more stressful in the beginning to figure out the logistics and lock in the vendors. But then once we got closer, like now, I really haven't been stressed. It's been a lot, but it's been a lot because I am running a business. I have a very full calendar. I ran 3 events back to back. I am getting my book out. We have so much travel on our calendar. I'm trying to finish the house and I'm trying to plan a wedding. So yeah, there's been a lot, but the wedding planning hasn't actually been that stressful. And maybe it's also because I am able to handle stress very well, but I think that the wedding planning process could be very stressful for people when they are letting everybody else's opinions influence theirs. And I know for some people, wedding planning can be really stressful because you've got parents trying to get their nose in it and plan something that they're trying to make their day rather than your day. So I'm not saying that, I understand that there are other factors that can make the wedding planning really stressful, but we also set an intention that we weren't going to let our wedding planning be really stressful. And every time things got like a little bit stressful, we pulled back, we breathed, we remembered what was important. What was important is fun and love and happiness and joy, like that, and ease, like just things being easy. And so what that's meant is that, yeah, sometimes I'm just like now throwing money at a problem because I'm like, you know what, it's not worth the hassle of this because that's just going to bring more stress closer to the days. So I'm just going to let them handle it. So, yep, here's the money, like next. And I know there's plenty of reels out there of like, you think budget, 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 30 days out, money, money, money. And people are just like throwing money at the problems because you don't want to be dealing with it close to. But it's so much of the intention. What is your intention going into this process? What is your intention in like, for this is how we've done it anyway. What is your intention? How are you going to like handle when those stressful moments come up, and just reminding yourself of that. And I just have like a fuck it mentality. I was trying to, for example, do the table sheets the other day, and it was a jigsaw puzzle. And I get to, once I'll try, and then I'm like, fuck it, this person can sit here, no one's gonna die. I'm very mindful of that, like picking and choosing what you need to be stressed and anal about. People aren't being locked in their chairs the whole night. They can go and they're gonna mingle all through the night, etc., etc. So just really being, mindful of that. And yeah, but just to answer your question, is there anything else? How to compromise with your fiance when he wants to elope with just the two of you? I would really make sure that you share with him how that wouldn't make you happy. And this is what would make you happy. And just what I said, just really getting to the root of the why behind those things. Okay. How has your man contributed to wedding planning? He has contributed quite a bit, which I'm really grateful for. I know a lot of men just are like, I don't want to be involved. I'll just rock up. For me, I really didn't want that. I made that quite clear in the beginning that it was really important that he was involved in the wedding planning because I wanted it to feel like he actually wanted to get married to me and he actually wants this wedding, not just the wedding is for me and he doesn't give a fuck. The more I've gotten into the process, the more I've realized, like, okay, you don't need to be involved. It's interesting how from the sidelines, when I hear from other friends, like, oh yeah, he did nothing for the wedding. He just rocked up and was like, wow, this wedding just put itself together. And I would be like, oh, I don't want that. I don't want that. I really want him to be involved. And then as it came, then I got to the point of like, I understand why so many men just aren't that involved. And it's because, and I didn't actually realize this until my mother-in-law told me this. The wedding is like our day. Like really the wedding is for the bride. Like it's my mother-in-law said to me, this is early on. He goes, she was telling me this story about I don't even know what it was about. It was very early on with planning. She was talking to another family member about like maybe it was like what Hal wants and what I want, and I don't know, it was something like that. And her family member goes, "When is he going to get that it's not his wedding, it's hers?" And I burst out laughing because I'd never heard that before. And maybe it is more of like an American thing, I'm not sure. But that helped me. She explained it, and that kind of helped me to get it of like the wedding really is our thing. They have the rehearsal dinner night traditionally, right? They're the ones organizing, planning. Well, I'm organizing the rehearsal dinner, but they're the ones planning and contributing financially to the rehearsal dinner. Like that's their night, but the wedding is truly ours. And that's why I'm saying that the engagement should be theirs. Like that should be theirs because when the wedding comes, like it is us. Men, like honestly, when you think about it, it's like, do I want my fiance to be caring about what fucking napkins we use, what color florals we have? Like it would honestly, that actually would annoy me. And I would kind of be like, babe, you're a man. Why do you care so much about a fucking flower? So, in terms of the masculine feminine, it actually makes sense. But what I will say that he has been very involved. He has been very involved and he's been very involved, which I'm so grateful for, with the logistics. He has done all budgeting, all signing of contracts, all payments, all like negotiating, all, like those kind of more logistical phone calls with vendors because I don't have the brain space with work to be able to deal with the logistics. I have done all creatives, all fluff, all florals, all the fun stuff. But what's been really important for me is that he is getting a say, even in the timeline. He's not just like, yeah, whatever you want. He's like, no, I want to look at it. I want to see it. I want to like give my approval. I'm not choosing the aisle music. We are choosing the aisle music. I didn't just choose the first dance music. We've chosen it. It's just, I would say that I've kind of creatively led. Like I'm the creative director of the wedding because it's literally like a fucking, I mean, all weddings like this, it's a production. So I would say that I really led that kind of thing, but he is giving the yes, no's. He's looking at everything. Like he knows what's going on. He's not going to walk in and be like, whoa, I didn't know this was our color scheme, So, but what I would do is I would gather all the pictures, for example, of flowers, and then I would show to him and I would say, just as I flick through these, tell me yes, no, which was awesome because I also want about 500 different wedding vibes all in one. So I needed his decision making ability and like his preferences to help me narrow down. So like there were times we'd be on a plane and I would flick through pictures and he'd be like, yes, no, ew, hate, yes, oh, love that, love these components. And that would also help me to narrow down on what we wanted because I was, getting his preferences involved. And like we both don't love like a pastel vibe. So it's those little things. But I'll just show him and he's like, babe, I don't care. And I'm like, okay, cool. So you don't care about like these are the flowers. You're good with this? He's like, yeah, don't give a fuck. I'm like, great, next. Yeah, that's kind of how involved he's been. There isn't anything though that he has no idea about in terms of like, oh, I didn't know we were going to have this kind of cake, or I didn't know we were going to have, these many speeches, or I didn't know the florals were going to look like this. He's definitely been really involved. And I also wanted him to be involved. So if you don't want him to be involved, like that's totally your personal preference. But I want to say now that I've planned a wedding, I get why like brides will be like, nah, he wasn't involved. I did everything. Because also like you're marrying a fucking dude. Like he does. I think we need to also remember, ladies, that like we're not marrying our girlfriends. And they literally don't care. And you probably would be a little bit more concerned if he really did care about all the creatives and the little finer things. So yeah. Anyway, so that's kind of his involvement in the wedding. And he did everything in the beginning, basically with the logistics and locking in all the vendors and having those like harder conversations with them, which was really awesome. Okay. So the last question, I think, for all of these, one of the questions, how do you know that he is the one? I feel like that's a whole episode in itself. But to really quickly answer, how did I know he's the one? Was because I had no questions. There was no, I wonder if he's the one. I wonder if he's not. It was just like, it was like inevitable that we were going to get married. It's hard to describe, but there was basically no question. Of course, then as we got a year in, 2 years in, and we would have like, a disagreement, or he was just being like a dick one day, I'd be like, oh my God, am I meant to marry him? But I knew that was just my ego and me just being a bitch back. But in terms of like the first, year, it was no question. And even now, I'm still like, of course I meant to. Like, we all get annoyed with our partners. That doesn't mean you're not meant to marry him. Okay, the last question, which I feel like I need to leave this for an episode with him, or like a Q&A with him before the wedding, is thoughts on prenups. This was also something that I've been asked a lot, is will you guys get a prenup? Will you have like, do you have a prenup? I don't know whether that would work. Thoughts on prenups, that kind of thing. So that is a whole episode in and of itself that I'm going to leave to maybe talk with him if he comes on. Otherwise, I'm just going to talk for myself on the prenup thing, because that is, it's now like a really, I see it on Instagram, of like why you should get a prenup, why prenups are important, why this, why that. And you guys know that I'm also very big on like the energy and kind of the intention that you're setting as you're going into the relationship. But I also have thoughts on the pros of prenups. So anyway, let's leave that. I'm going to write that down for the next Q&A. I hope that you guys have loved this. Please know that we are doing a manifestation challenge, which is the perfect theme for like the wedding season coming up. Well, our wedding season. we are doing a manifestation challenge, which is also going around the Lionsgate portal on August 8th. So if you haven't already signed up, you can sign up. Just there'll be a link below that you can sign up to. Just basically signing up to an email list. The manifestation challenge is through emails. They are all value packed emails. I think I have about like I think I have like 6 emails that go out over like a period of time. It's not too late to join. I think they end on the 12th of August. Yes, they end on the 12th of August. I have about 1 or 2 going out a week, and it's basically just a heap of things to start doing now for manifestation. Not just how to manifest, but it's about integrating manifestation into your life. They're all value packed. They're not selling. So if you want to get on that, do that. I did this last year. You guys absolutely loved it. So even if you did last year's manifestation challenge, we have a new email list. We're not going to like email it again to the same people as last year. So make sure that you sign up to this new manifestation challenge if you want to get the emails again, because they were really, really, really juicy. Okay, that is it. So wedding Q&A done. Make sure that you keep any other questions that come up that you want to ask me for the next box that I put up on my Instagram stories. And I hope this was fun. I hope this got you guys a little bit excited for your own weddings, or for that time that you're going to meet your sexy man and then get married to him. And yeah, I'm really happy to answer any more questions, because I've learned a lot through this process. And I definitely was that chick that was so excited to plan her wedding and like, oh my God, wedding planning, it's so much fun. It's so much fun. And then you get into it and you're like, oh, this is what it is. We definitely need to like lower those expectations of just, oh, it's actually quite a lot to plan a wedding. So anyway, we'll talk about that next time. I will see you guys next week on the episode. Have a lovely rest of your day.